Let's talk now about some of that and more, joined by Salga Deputy President Xanthea Limberg. Xanthea, good to have you. Thank you very much for your time. Salga, your key mandate, among other things, is, of course, representation, ensuring that local government is heard and considered in the national legislative processes and policy making. The Auditor-General says, look, we don't need more policies. Framework is there. Funding is there. Turnaround strategies we've got galore. But the real challenge is ethical and accountable and effective governance. What do you believe, a sitting like this in Indaba is really going to help us as far as that is concerned?
Good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity. So yes, all of those challenges are a real part of what is undermining local government's ability to optimally fulfill its constitutional mandate. But it would be amiss of Salga and stakeholders within not only government, but beyond that, to also address the structural challenges. And so the local government in Indaba aims to reflect on the 25 years of the establishment of local government, acknowledge the successes, as the AG has pointed out, but also be frank about where the systemic weaknesses are. And you have reflected on some of those. But just to reiterate, it is about also dealing with the inadequate and unresponsive funding model. But beyond that, also ensuring that we professionalize local government to ensure that we can capacitate local government to deliver what is required and expected of that sphere. And to, most importantly, also professionalize it to ensure we have the best of the best within our municipalities, root out corruption, remove the undue and inappropriate interference, both politically and otherwise. And the Indaba aims to consolidate the inputs of stakeholders across the board, not only from the three spheres of government, but stakeholders at large, consolidate that in a roadmap in setting out what we plan to implement for local government going into the future, what needs to be incorporated in the local government white paper review, which is currently underway, including setting out an immediate plan of actions that are required before we go into the 2026 local government election.
I understand it's a government of national unity, and you've got a new minister in Nkosini Hlabisa sitting at Kokta, but even him would have been sitting in parliament for at least the last 2 decades, and he understands the challenges of local government. For example, 1.4 billion rand spent on consultants to do financial statements, to do an asset register, to do VAT returns. These are things that the Auditor General complains about every single financial year. I honestly don't believe sitting at an Indaba is going to solve that. So I'm going to hear from you, Salga. What is the advice that you're giving to municipalities that they build their capacity? Buzzword professionalize municipalities does not mean anything if this is going to continue.
Well, you're absolutely correct. Those are real challenges that we need to confront. And in the particular discussions already in the Indaba earlier today, no one was shying away from that. We do need to rectify the fact that there is inadequate capacity within local government. And the current amendments that we will be seeing in the public administration will partly deal with that. But we also need the involvement of political parties to ensure that the public office bearers that they put forward as part of the public representatives in councils are also suitably qualified and are able to carry the weight of the responsibility that is upon local government in terms of its constitutional functions and mandates. But beyond that, I think it is important to also focus on the fact that local government does not operate in a vacuum. We do require the other two spheres of government to also adequately step forward and support local government. And so the Indaba is also about looking at mechanisms to strengthen that partnership. If we look at an issue of financial feasibility, local government in many areas across South Africa are struggling with debt and revenue collection. And here we can play a far more effective role if we work together, use national treasury, agencies like SARS to support local government in their efforts to collect revenue. So it is a whole of government approach that is going to require moving local government forward and to the pace at which they need to operate in order to effectively deliver services.
Yeah. Stemming out political interference, in real terms, what does that really mean, as opposed to saying, well, let's professionalize local government? How does it happen? I mean, what we are learning from the commissions, from ad hoc committees and SIU investigations is that there is a lot of political interference in the functioning of other state institutions or local government.
So interference can happen at many, many levels within local government as well as government at large. If we first look at oversight, councillors serving in Section 79 portfolio committees, MPAC, need to be playing a far more effective role in terms of oversight to be able to address areas of weakness and maladministration. When we look at our supply chain management processes, here we are going to also have to jointly as government look at how we can bolster those processes to remove the level of interference from a procurement perspective. In addition, the appointment of staff within the legislation amendments that are currently being processed, it is looking at removing a lot of those functions out of the political realm to far more independent, external, specialized bodies. All of these are interventions that are being reviewed as mechanisms to try and shield and insulate municipalities from that undue interference.
What have we learned in terms of the participation of local communities? How can we bring them on board a little bit more to bring change and improvement to local government systems and performance?
Well, I think it first starts with trying to work at reinstating the trust and confidence that has been lost in local government and government at large. And things such as our public participation processes, I think also require a review to ensure that those are not merely tick box exercises, but where we get the input of the public communities part of our planning and project processes. Submissions has already been made as part of the current review in the local government white paper review. That looks at revamping how public participation is done to ensure that communities can play a far more active and participatory role in the processes of local government. And I think that can take us to a certain extent to a far more better working relationships. The structure and the role of war committees is another area I think that needs a revamp to ensure that those are structures where the sectorial views of communities are truly reflected and are taken into consideration to form the IDPs, which are the long-term development plans of local government, into account. So there are many avenues, I think, where the role of the community are critical, but I think most importantly, when we look at the financial feasibility and what is owed to local government, we're sitting at debt owed to local government over the tune of 400 billion rand. A significant portion of that is from government, but the largest contributing factor is that we unfortunately don't have residents paying for services. And this is where we do need community members and our residents to step forward and play their part. Their contributions are what essentially aids local government to be able to render the services that they expect. And I think it's important that our communities understand that they form part of the success or failure of our municipalities.
Well, the misalignment would come at communities saying, well, improve accountability, we'll pay. For us, we feel uncomfortable continuing to put our money into a black hole where we'll put it and still not get services.
Well, I think it requires a joint partnership. Municipalities have to play their role. They need to ensure the necessary accountability. They need to make sure that they render basic services and that they remain responsive to the needs of their respective communities. But at the same time, we also require our communities to be active citizens and ensure that they pay their bills on time, and so that municipalities can render the much needed services. And it's that joint partnership which is essential to the viability and the sustainability of local government. And without each partner coming to the fore, we unfortunately won't move forward. And so the Indaba is about reflecting on what different stakeholders can do to ensure that local government moves forward and really becomes an agent of transformation for our nation, because without municipalities functioning, particularly our metros, we won't be able to drive economic activity, and the country, unfortunately, will bear the brunt of that poor economic growth. And we understand that there are multiple implications for that. And so this is why getting things right at a local level is so critical, and we need all stakeholders to be able to play their respective roles.
Xanthea Limberg, appreciate your time. Salga's Deputy President there on the local government Indaba.